So this is a bit of a weird story, okay, personally. It's disturbing too. So my grandfather started a company like in the 50s, maybe late 40s or early 50s, somewhere around there, called Perfection Mica. Okay, and it was him and a couple other guys that started it, and then he bought them out. And this is what my mom had said, because this story gets weirder. Because he had government contracts, but he started the business with the mica and shielding. And he had a shielded room, and when business was started, it was a mica business and supplied government with mica chips, etc. Okay? So that was started in Chicago. Then they moved to Bensonville. Yet, I cannot find anything with my grandfather in this company. But what makes this weirder is that around the same time, okay, and I always remember my grandmother talking about this story, is that my grandmother hated L. Ron Hubbard, you know, the head of the guy that started Dianetics and Scientology. She hated him. She hated him so much that when they lived in, because they were being harassed by Scientologists. The whole family, I guess, my mom and her brother and my grandmother and grandfather had went to a couple of the Scientology meetings, but my grandmother didn't like it. But my grandfather was very much pulled into it, and he was just giving them whatever money they wanted. And my mom said they even had went to Washington, D.C. for some Scientology New Year's Eve party or something at one point. She doesn't remember a lot about it, but she remembers them doing something called clearing. Well, looking into Scientology, they do have a program called Clear. I'm not going to get into that. But my grandmother hated L. Ron Hubbard so much that she went to a bar in Chicago back in the day where she knew that the mafia had ties to, and she had told the bartender, I will pay whatever money necessary if the mafia will execute L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah, my grandmother had a bit of an edge. She wasn't a criminal or anything. It's probably where I get my edge. But the bartender said, Norma, you don't want to go down that road. But she had good reason. My grandfather was an alcoholic, and he had quit drinking. But Scientology came along and told him, hey, it's okay, you can control your drinking. So he started drinking again, and then it was not long after that he died. So because the route didn't work out in Chicago, my grandmother moved the whole family to California to get away from these Scientologists. They followed them to California and kept harassing till my grandfather died. My grandmother always told that story. I think the thing here is that my grandfather, though, before he died, he had a fallout with Lockheed Martin in regards to the business. So after my grandfather died, my grandmother took over the company, and she ran it for a little while, and then her son bought it out, and then he went on to change the name. And just a side note, the reason that I don't believe that this whole nonsense that we didn't go to the moon is because my grandfather, or my uncle's company, who also had government contracts, like they would make shields for the space shuttle. I mentioned it before. I lived with my uncle. He's passed away now, but I lived with him when I was in high school. I went to high school in California. So I used to always try to get him to tell me what the government contracts were, and he would never tell me. He would just tell me the technology is 30 years ahead of what they tell you. That's always what he would tell me. Anyway, but I remember that his main company that was in Indiana, when you would go into the waiting room, there was encased in this glass container was a replica of the box the moon rocks came back in. My uncle's company had made the box that the moon rocks came back in. I can't find hardly anything on the internet about the box that the moon rocks came back in. But okay. What's more disturbing is I I can find the company Perfection Mica, but nothing with the history that my grandfather's name, he owned it. So like this site, okay, you see it's I can't get on this site. It says error. Magnetic Shield Corporation, Perfection Mica, Bensonville. So they were in Chicago. Can't find anything about when they were in Chicago, but Bensonville. This my grandfather owned this. I don't even know what the hell this shit is, because it's now Magnetic Shield Incorporated. And you can see where it has the address, Bensonville. I don't know who the hell Mark D. Wickler is, but it doesn't matter. What is this? It's almost as if the government, because their obsession with technology, was screwing American citizens over, just wanting to get a hold of their companies. Because I should be able to find something that it mentions my grandfather's name and Perfection Mica, given it was his fucking company. Sorry, I'm just it's pissing me off, because while I get fed up with the whole technology, because it's so corrupted and it's so disgusting. Your Mark Zuckerberg, the Elon Musk bullshit. I'm sick of all of it. Okay, yet people like my grandfather, who had a falling out with Lockheed Martin, then dies. Okay, yet he had a company that started the industry when it came to Mica. So this was the only thing I could find. So Magnetic Shield Corporation, founded in 1941 as the Perfection Mica Company. We originally focused on mining and processing of mica in a North Carolina mine, and subsequently gained ownership of the Buster Mine located in the Dakotas, the largest mica mine in the world during the 1940s. I read this whole thing, okay, all of it. My grandfather's name is not once mentioned in this. What the hell's that about? Well, it's likely because it's all to do with the government. How the government helped spur the microchip industry. Demand from NASA and the Air Force gave a major boost to the fledgling semiconductor industry in the late 1950s and early 60s. Again, nothing I can find with my grandfather, yet he was the one that founded Perfection Mica, with the same address that these people are using, but they don't even mention him. It's like they just wanted him to disappear, right? And Lockheed Martin opens an advanced manufacturing facility in Titusville to expand Orion spacecraft production. And that's who my grandfather had a falling out with, was Lockheed, and then died. You know what? Now I'm just really pissed off. I want answers. I want answers, because Perfection Mica was my grandfather's company, and yet the internet is lying. He was the owner of it, yet had government contracts, but had a falling out with Lockheed. Don't know what that was about, because my mom doesn't know. Then ends up dead because of people harassing him. Because let's face it, Scientology, basically, in my opinion, is CIA controlled. Okay, their history is nothing but secrecy, and it's not a church, it's some mind control kind of stuff. I mean, my mom would talk about how they, as kids, her and her brother had to stand up against this wall for hours. It's just stupid stuff. She doesn't remember a lot about it. And again, they weren't in it very long, because my grandmother was like, no, hell, screw this, we're no more. But my grandfather kept giving them money. They kept coming around, kept harassing him. Yeah, because I think they probably wanted the company, right? I don't know. I should be able to search Perfection Mica and find who the original owner was, which was my grandfather, and I can't. So all your people that are raved that they're so smart and they're so intelligent, like Elon Musk and all the other technology assholes, well, guess what? They sure as shit didn't care about who they had to steal from to get their high status, did they?